You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Welcome to the show. We certainly appreciate you guys. For 16 years and over 2,000 episodes, we bring you the most amazing authors and minds on the show, the most brilliant people that share with you their stories of fiction and nonfiction that help improve the quality of your life, entertain you, and give you insights. Stories are the owner's manual to life, is like we always say. Probably the reigning champion or the returning guest on the show at this point is a young lady called J.A. Jance. She's an amazing, prolific author. She's been on the show more times than I can count. I think she is the reigning queen of the most guest appearances on the Chris Voss Show.
Happy to be here.
We're honored to have her as well. Always, it's always a joy to see her and hang out with her. Her newest book is out called Den of Iniquity, a J.P. Beaumont novel. It's number 23, and it's out September 10th, 2024. We'll be talking to J.A. Jance about her books and everything that goes into them. She is the New York Times bestselling author of contemporary mysteries in 4 different series. She's a voracious reader, and she wanted to be a writer from the moment she read her first Wizard of Oz book in 2nd grade. Always drawn to mysteries from Nancy Drew right down to John D. MacDonald's Travis McGee series, it was only natural that she tried her hand at writing her first book. It would be a mystery as well. She wanted to become a New York Times bestselling author of the J.P. Beaumont series, the Joanna Brady series, 3 interrelated thrillers, including The Walker Family and The Edge of Evil. I think she wrote The Edge of Evil about me and my life story. No, I'm just kidding. It's not about my life story. Maybe it should be. I don't know. I'll have to read the book and find out. Born in South Dakota and brought up in Bisbee, Arizona, Jance lives with her husband in Seattle, Washington, and Tucson, Arizona. Welcome to the show, Miss Jance. How are you?
I'm medium because I've got a summer cold that came on yesterday.
Oh, no.
But for the most part, I'm just fine. Thank you very much.
When we're honored to have you again. I always enjoy having you on the show, by the way. We have these great discussions. Sometimes you tell me some great stories out there that are quite quite exceptional. So I always enjoy having you on. Thank you for coming back. Yeah. Give us a .com where people can find you on the interwebs and look at your website.
jajanceauthor.com. That's my website.
Miss Jance, tell us about this latest book. Give us a 30,000 overview of your new book.
This was a really fun book to write because I write series. J.P. Beaumont and I started together on this fictional journey more than 40 years ago in 1983. And he's aged over time along with me. I gave him my birthday, so I could
really?
I can remember how old he is. But so we've traveled and he's aged and he's changed and his circumstances are changed.
Oh.
When I met him, he was a divorced homicide cop, middle-aged homicide cop in Seattle, estranged with a serious drinking problem, estranged from his family. Mm-hmm. And now his life has turned around. He's retired from being a sworn police officer. And his family members have grown up around him. So this book starts with him out for a walk with his new dog on Valentine's Day. It's cold and sort of wet in Bellingham, Washington, but he's out walking anyway because now that he has a dog, he sort of has to walk. Mm. And he comes back to his house and there's a strange car in the yard.
Oh.
And then the door opens and this long drink of water steps out, who happens to be his grandson, Kyle.
Oh.
And Kyle is 18 years old. He has just run away from home because his father has a pregnant girlfriend that he has moved into the house. His parents are getting a divorce, and he wants to come live with grandpa and grandma.
Well, there you go. So it's on for a new adventure for.
So part of this book is Bo and his wife, Mel, negotiating the generation chasm, not the generation gap, but the chasm between their 70-something lives and their teenage grandson's life.
Oh.
And that was really fun to write.
Mhm.
There is, of course, a mystery, and it is a serial killer. Bo does end up tracking her down. I'm not going to say which it is.
Murder. Murder, you say? So is this maybe a new character? This son that is he a new character maybe that's going to be in the future books, or can you divulge that information?
Kyle?
Yeah.
The grandson?
Yeah.
Beats me. I never know what's going to be in a book until I start to write it.
Really? Well,
when I start to write it, I never know how it's going to end because I don't outline. I don't outline my books, nor do I outline my series. So
sounds like my life choices.
I believe what they called a seat of the pantser writer.
Sounds like my life and life choices. I make the same choices sometimes, and my life shows it. So what were some of your motivations in this new book? What kind of lit your fire at like here's what I want to write about in this version of the Beaumont series?
We all see the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Fentanyl overdoses. There, I think there were like 1,800 of them in King County in 2018.
Very real.
And there are 4 times that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what we see on the news is just a statistic.
Mm-hmm. We
don't see a name. And in this book, we see a grandmother who says, no, wait a minute. My grandson was clean. He was not on drugs. He did not overdose.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was murdered. And she calls Bo for help. But in the process of him solving this mystery, he ends up getting behind the statistics and learning about the people who have died and learning about the people who are left behind. Kind of economic chaos and the kind of familial chaos that those deaths leave. They're not just a statistic. They're not just a number in the newspaper. They're real people.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of writing this book, I think I changed my mind about those statistics as well.
Yeah. I had friends. I mean, this was in the 2000s, that very early on, before people were really getting aware of what was going on. But I had one friend, her sister had been in a car accident, and she had to have the head cage and stuff, the wiring they put on her head. And so she was really, barely survived this car crash. And at the time she was, a normal person. She got hooked on the opioids and couldn't get off. And, took a long time to recover when you've been through that much damage. And by the time she got out, she was highly addicted to these opioids. And she eventually ended up working the streets for heroin, once they wouldn't give her anymore. And she died eventually of a heroin overdose. It was very unfortunate. And this is back before, when I remember hearing about it, I was like, holy crap, somebody should do something about this. This seems inappropriate.
What I could do about it, write a story about it. And I believe in the process, I think they're fictional characters, but I think my readers will come to care about those characters. Mm-hmm. In a way that may surprise them.
Yeah.
I certainly came to care about them in the process of writing about them.
These are unfortunate human beings too, right? I mean, some people make bad choices. Some people, in this case, I have one family member in a care center who's on a fentanyl patch because she has MS and extreme pain. And the fentanyl, it's not the best thing for you, but it's effective at pain, but it's basically just glorified heroin. It's crazy.
It's also deadly.
Yeah, very much. So you write about this. It sounds like you did some study on it. You looked into some of the stats and the data and all that stuff, so you could write well about it then.
I did, and I did an interesting thing. Bo looks at this problem and he says, I'm not going to be able to solve this problem. And because he needs to talk to all of these people and find out their background.
Mhm.
But it turns out that a forensic economist, is doing a study, and she has interviewed all those families. And he's able to go to her interviews and find out which of those cases need to be further investigated.
Oh, so there may be some dirty play here, some
Yes.
dirty business going on.
The forensic economist, as I was getting ready to write about her, I needed a name. It's always a problem to name people. And so I decided to name her Yolanda Aguirre. Yolanda Aguirre was a girl in my high school homeroom class.
Uh-huh.
She was Aguirre. She was over by the window. I was Busk. I was over in the wall by the blackboards. And that's a long time ago. So we didn't really know one another very well in high school, but I knew that she had become a fan. And I thought, why don't I name this character Yolanda Aguirre? So I sent her a note and said, I'd like to name a character after you. Would you mind?
Wow.
And then I didn't hear anything.
Huh.
I went ahead and I was writing the book and I thought, okay, if I have to, I can change it. And then a few months later, I heard back from her daughter. She had passed away suddenly.
Oh, no.
And so she is Yolanda Aguirre in this book, and the book is dedicated to her.
Wow, that is awesome. And a wonderful memory for this person and stuff. You have a great memory for memory, so I can't remember any from high school and stuff.
I am plagued with an excellent memory.
Tell us a little bit, familiarize the audience that maybe don't know you, the 5 people or something that don't. Familiarize them with how many books have you written now? You've got quite a few. I know you've got a couple that are in the...
I believe the one I just finished, the next Joanna Brady book, is number 68. So it's close to 70 books.
Wow. Oh.
A period of 41 years. Wow, and I've been writing at a rate of 1.5 books a year for all this time.
Congratulations.
Not bad for a girl.
I mean, women write a lot of great novels and books. We have them on the show. But yeah, no, I mean, I suppose it's not bad for a girl, I guess. I mean, you're brilliant in it and you do extremely well with it. And you have so many of these great series that are running. We got into why you did this. Some of your story, if you want to familiarize people a little bit more with your original origin story, I always tell it to people, originally you wanted to write and you came from an era where you couldn't write.
Well,
it was kind of frowned upon.
It was not approved.
Approved. There we go.
I wasn't allowed in the creative writing program at the University of Arizona in 1964.
Isn't that amazing?
As the professor told me, you're a girl. Girls become teachers or nurses. Boys become writers.
Mm-hmm.
But, and my first husband told me when we married in 1968, he was allowed in the creative writing program that was closed to me.
Wow.
So in 1968, he told me there's only going to be one writer in our family, and I'm it.
Wow.
So I didn't start writing until 13 years later after I divorced him. And by the time my first book was published, both my first husband and the creative writing professor were dead. I trust that every time I
shouldn't laugh about that. Huh?
In their respective graves.
The one thing I remember about you is you never say anything bad about Miss Jance. Otherwise, you might end up killed in her books. You might end up on the wrong side
Not
of a.
making mad. The creative writing professor is the crazed killer in Howard the Hunter, the first Walker family book. So yes, do not make me mad. Making mystery writers mad is a bad idea.
That's true. That's true. But I don't know. It might be one way to get in your book. Maybe I'll make your coffee runk sometime or something.
Someone told me something interesting recently about my books that I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
And he said, in every single book of yours, even though they are murder mysteries, at some point in the story, there's a moment of reconciliation.
Oh.
And I never realized it before, but he's right.
Oh.
There's a moment of reconciliation in Den of Iniquity.
Mhm.
There's a moment of reconciliation in Overkill, the next Allie Reynolds book. And the same happens in By Reason of Insanity, the book I finished writing last night. And I never realized it until that reader pointed it out.
I'd like to piss you off enough to make you write about me in one of your books and make me famous, but not enough that you would hate me and never appear on the show again. So somehow I have to find a middle ground there, but I'm just kidding. But I always joke with novels about that because I'm like, if anybody angers you in life, do you write about them like Mrs. Jance does? Because I know it's a bad way to get on her bad side. So
Don't get on my bad side.
Don't get on your bad side. I imagine your publisher walks that fine line too, as well, and make sure they don't. whatever Mrs. Jance wants, let William Morrow's just sitting around going, yeah, just whatever she wants to do, just let her do it. Now you've got two other books, I think you said, that are in the can or possibly almost in the can for future publication.
Yes, Overkill is the next Allie Reynolds book. It's due out in April, and the copy editing on that is going to arrive any minute. So I needed to have By Reason of Insanity out of my head so I could concentrate on that. The copy editing is going to arrive in the next day or so, and then I'll have to reimmerse myself in that book.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time, I'm talking about Den of Iniquity. Good luck. Good luck with
that. Oh, that's just so funny. That's just you got a lot going on with all your books. Now, you want to tell us what the other two books are in the can, or can you disclose that yet?
Overkill is Allie Reynolds. She's at work.
Mm-hmm.
The phone rings, and it's her husband's first wife calling from jail because her husband is dead and they think she did it.
Oh, now did she know her husband was dead until this call? Or can you disclose that, I guess?
How did she find out he was dead? She woke up covered with blood and he was dead in the bed next to her. So of course they sort of think she did it.
Oh, okay. But, there you go.
Of course, Allie is someone who can't mind her own business. And so naturally she gets involved in this case.
Uh-huh.
And in the upcoming Joanna Brady book, they find a dead kid in a duffel bag floating under a flooded bridge. There's been a flash flood on the San Pedro River, and so they're pulling out the debris to keep the bridge from collapsing. And part of the debris is a duffel bag with a dead child in it. And this is in Joanna's Cochise County. But the investigation into that case leads to a serial killer who has lived in Bisbee as a well-respected member of the community for decades while going out hunting and being a serial killer during the summers.
Wow. There's a lot going on there.
That was an interesting book to write.
Mm-hmm. So what else is in the future for you? What else are you going to be up?
I'm still getting my steps. Still get 10,000 steps every day. Every day. Let me check the phone. Let's see.
I need to keep up with you.
I have walked a minimum of 10,000 steps
Wow.
For 1,016 days.
Wow. Yo.
That adds up to 27,478,000 steps.
Holy crap. I am not doing 10,000, let alone probably 1,000 steps a day. I don't know. I'd have to check my thing, but yeah, I definitely need to work harder keeping up with you. So
walking gives me time to think.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly, I finally figured out a way to not have to count steps in my head as I'm walking. And so in this book, in the book I've just finished reading, I could create scenes and conversation while I was walking.
Mm-hmm.
I used to just be stuck counting the steps, which is sort of pointless.
What keeps you going? What keeps you writing? What keeps you coming up with, storylines and compiling them? I mean, I know you got started late, but you ever just thought about just, enjoying traveling and sitting in the sun and enjoying retirement?
I write the books. My husband writes the checks, and I'm motivated to keep up with writing because he can write checks faster than I can write.
That sounds like some relationships I've had. But I'm the one usually writing the checks. Or maybe, wait, no, I have that different. Anyway, so it's very fun. I'm glad you're loving it and you're just writing and writing and writing. And you have such a huge fan base of people that love your books. Do they have any sort of idea how big your fan base is in numbers by chance?
No, I really don't.
Spread out probably across a lot of books and genres.
I write a weekly blog. Mm-hmm. And I love the interactions on the blog because people comment on the blog, and the blog is sort of a window on my life for that week.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows me to stay in touch with my fans during the pandemic when everything was shut down. That fan interaction was a real lifeline for me.
Yeah.
And so the blog is important to me because it allows me to stay in touch with my collection of readers.
Miss Jance, anything more you want to pitch out on the new book, Den of Iniquity, before we go?
The chasm between Kyle and Beaumont is funny.
It's going to be a kind of a humorous murder mystery.
Kyle says, how about if we watch a movie? How about The Martian? And Beau says, okay, but he's thinking it's going to be Little Green Men. And it turns out to be a really good movie.
Yeah.
And of course, Kyle is a kid who doesn't know anything about stick shifts. And so he says he's really impressed that Beau's neighbor has a Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
And Beau looks at him and says, how do you know about Shelbys? And he said, haven't you seen Ford versus Ferrari? And of course, Beau hadn't seen that one either. Those little byplays were really fun to write.
Has those been in your other books, or is that something new that you're incorporating, or just in this series?
No, I think they're incorporated all the way along.
Miss Jance, it's been wonderful to have you on. Give us your .coms where people can find you on the internet, and the final pitch out for people to pick up your book.
janceauthor.com. Really hard to remember.
Miss Jance, it's been wonderful to have you on. We always love having you, and it's always wonderful to talk to you and see you. And keep up the good work. We'll look forward to the next book in whichever one of your series is up next, putting out on the marketplace. Thank you very much.
Allie Reynolds is coming.
Allie Reynolds is coming for all the fans that love that series. Thanks to my audience for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. It's out September 24th, September 10th, actually. Den of Iniquity, a J.P. Beaumont. Let me recut that. Den of Iniquity, a J.P. Beaumont novel. It's novel number 23 out by J.A. Jance. Pick it up wherever fine books are sold. Pre-order it now. and all that good stuff. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss, one of the TikTok and all those crazy places on the internet. We'll see you guys next time.